Alright, hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Casey, and today's reading is all about what do people admire about you? And I'm actually really excited for this reading because I'm hoping that everybody that resonates with this can walk away feeling more confident, feeling more proud of yourself. I was originally gonna make this video, like why you should be proud of yourself, but I feel like it's so difficult for us to see ourselves in a positive light. I feel like we're often looking for, what's the next thing that I need to fix about myself? What's the next thing that I need to heal? Like what am I doing wrong right now so that I can fix it? But very often, or not so often, do we just sit down and say like, I'm proud of myself, or like, I'm doing really well in these areas? And so the thing that I feel like will help you best attain that feeling and feel positively about yourself is hearing what do the people around you admire you for? What do the people around you, what would they compliment you on? So that is everything that this reading is going to be about, and I really hope that you walk away from this feeling like you can lift your head a little bit taller, like you're feeling a little bit more positive about yourself, feeling a bit more confident, and you don't always need to be looking for the next thing to heal or the next thing that you need to fix or what am I doing wrong right now. Sometimes it's okay to just sit back and say, you know what? I am proud of the person that I am right now. I am happy to be the person that I am right now. And that is what I'm hoping that you can get out of this reading. So today I have 3 different piles for you to choose from. We have pile 1 with the malachite, pile 2 with the angelite, and pile 3 with the labradorite. So go ahead and pause, figure out which reading you feel most drawn to. I'll leave timestamps down in the description box below so you can quickly jump to whichever reading that you want to listen to. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, pile 1. If you chose the malachite, then this is the reading for you. Now I have to say, off the bat, there are a lot of different people that admire you, and not just people. I think that there's a lot of different things about you that people admire, because when I was shuffling and trying to get the cards out, like at the very end, there was like 3 cards that flew out, and I was like, okay, like I got this feeling like there's so many different things that people around you would list. Like if they were told to like, what are all the things that you admire about this person? Like they have so many, and it's like you can't just fit it into like 3 different options. And so I feel like these are really narrowed down to like the biggest like things that people really admire about you, but there's also so many little details. I feel like you have a lot of people in your life that are very grateful for you, that you might not even realize just how much you've helped a lot of the people around you. Whether it's like actively helping them accomplish something, or words that you've given them, or even just the way that you live your life inspires other people. I get the word inspiration a lot. Like when I was looking at this success card, the word that came to mind is like, you're an inspiration. And I feel like the people that were drawn to this video, it's gonna be hard to hear out a lot of these compliments because, again, I feel like if you needed to hear this, it's because you have a hard time taking these compliments to heart. It's because you have a hard time believing them, believing that other people are saying these things. And I'm gonna try to compliment you as much as possible, but I really don't want to deter people and like make you feel awkward. And I feel like if you feel awkward receiving compliments, that might be something that you need to work on and kind of delve deep into. Why do I feel that way? Why is it so hard for me to love myself? Why is it so hard for me to feel positive emotions about myself? But anyways, getting into it, all of these are going to be slightly different. So the first one that we have here is strength and the Ace of Swords. I think that you are an incredibly strong person. When I'm kind of envisioning your vibe, I'm imagining somebody who has this energy about them where like they're built like a wall. Like I'm not saying you're necessarily physically built that way where you're like super buff and tall and like strong, but you have that energy of like a protector who's going to stand in the way of people that are going to try to hurt those around you. You just have this like Doberman energy. Like I have a Doberman, and it's kind of funny because she's like really small and timid, and she's not actually like the scary Doberman type, but I get that kind of stereotypical like scary dog energy from you. Like when people try to mess with those that you love, it's like they look at you and then they second guess. They're like, oh shit, never mind, I don't want to mess with you. But with strength and the Ace of Swords, I feel like not only do you have that kind of protective vibe, but you are willing to go out of your way to protect those around you. And also you're just willing to make things happen for those around you. Like I have a very basic analogy for this is like, when people go to like In-N-Out, for example, and they asked for pickles, but then they didn't get it. You're the one that walks up and said, actually, she wanted pickles. Because, like, the people around you, maybe they're too scared to ask. But for you, it's like, you're always willing to be there to, like, help them get what they need. You're there to make sure that they get their foot in the door. Like, maybe the people around you weren't always given opportunities, and it's like you're willing to go out of your way to make sure that they can accomplish what they want to accomplish, and like you go out of your way to help others, especially those that you care about. And with the strength card again, it just makes me think like you have this protector energy that you want to help these people succeed because you care about them, because you're willing to do whatever it takes to uplift them. And I feel like that is something that a lot of people admire about you, but not just admire, but are thankful for it. Like, I feel like you have a lot of people around you that, for some reason, I want to say, like, owe their success to you, but it might not even be, like, success in the typical terms. It's just, like, you've helped them out a lot when they were afraid to help themselves. And, like, that is a big, big thing to admire. And that's why I say they're more thankful than anything. It's not just admiration, it's like gratitude for you. Like, a lot of people, I just got the word in my mind, like, I couldn't do it without you. And that doesn't mean like I couldn't accomplish this career goal. It's like maybe I couldn't go through life without you. Maybe I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for you. I feel like people drawn to this pile, you might be the eldest sibling, or you might be the sibling that was always looking out for the younger ones. Or when it came to like family and friends, it's like you were always taking care of them. You were always making sure that they were taken care of. And you also have here anger and the Hanged Man. And I feel like family is really big for you, and I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into all these cards because I feel like it all has to do with, you know, where you came from and how that molded you into the person that you are today. And with anger and the Hanged Man, this isn't going to resonate for everybody. I feel like this pile is very specific. But I feel like you grew up where maybe one or both of your parents or people around you had very strong anger issues where they took out their anger on you or others. And maybe that gene was passed on to you, you know, the anger gene. But something people admire out of you is no matter where you came from, no matter what DNA you are built out of, you never let it control your actions. Especially with this strength card, how I said you're like built like a wall. Like somebody who has that kind of strength, if they can't control their emotions, they could do a lot of destruction. It's so easy for them to resort to violence to get what they want. But something that people admire about you is even though you have the ability to hurt others, even though you grew up from circumstances that should have molded you into a violent kind of person, into a hateful kind of person, you're not. I'm getting this image in my mind where, like I said, you don't have to be built like a wall, like I'm talking about here. It's all analogies. But I'm imagining like this big, scary, like tiger or like a lion with like a ton of like muscles and like scars and teeth and like scary claws. But it's just like sitting there and there's a bunch of children climbing all over it and children playing around it. And it's like that lion should be attacking. It should be angry. It should be lashing out. It should have no love around it because it pushed everything away. And yet it's sitting here in this beautiful meadow with a bunch of children feeling super protected by them. And I feel like that's you. Like, you should be angry. You should be upset at the childhood that you had. You should be upset at the circumstances that you were raised in. Because of the violence put against you, you should be a violent person, and yet you're not. You're one of the kindest, most caring person that the people around you know. And they feel so safe with you. And I feel like it takes a lot. It takes a lot for you to be that kind of person, to hold back those feelings, hold back that anger. Because growing up the way that you did, it's like when generational trauma is passed down from generation to generation to generation, but you're the one that decided to stop it. You're the one that decided, I'm not going to talk to people the way that I was talked to. I'm not going to put people down. I'm not going to hurt them. I'm not going to beat them. And it ended with you. And because it ended with you, that takes so much strength. When I imagine generational trauma being passed down. It's like a train that just keeps getting faster and heavier and faster with every generation. And you were the one that, instead of getting hit by the train, you decided to try and push back, to slow it down and stop it from being passed down. You know how difficult that is? That is extremely difficult. The easy way out is to give in to anger, to give in to pain, and just let it be passed down, to let the train keep hitting people. But you stopped it, and that is so much harder and something that so many people admire. Like, there are so many people around you that are extremely grateful and proud of you, whether they say it or not. I feel like a lot of people maybe don't always compliment you about these things. They don't point out these things. It's just something that is just the way that things have always been. But I feel like you deserve to know just how grateful the people in your life are for you. And finally, with success in the Five of Swords, I feel like you are also an extremely hardworking person. And people admire the success that you've gotten to, not just because you've gotten to the success, but from where you started. Like I said, I feel like all these cards kind of showed that maybe you didn't have the easiest upbringing. Maybe you didn't have a ton of opportunities, but you made opportunity for yourself. Like with this Five of Swords, this card is all about like conflict between, like, you see these three people and there's two of them crying, and then there's the victor who's like won all the swords. But in my mind, it's like you went into this battle, this arena, with people that, maybe they were gladiators who had been trained since they were young. They've been had the finest trainers, the best armor, the best swords, and they had all the money for sponsors, and they lived the cushiest life. And then here's you coming to the arena with your handmade armor and the sword that you polished yourself, and you taught yourself everything, and it was always on your back to win. And the people fighting, they don't really need the prize. But you need it, and so you succeeded. You are the one that beat out all the competition. And people are extremely proud of you for that. They admire you so much, and that's where I said this inspiration comes from. People are inspired because your story is amazing. And maybe for you, maybe you're like, well, it's not like I have a Fortune 500 company. I just, maybe I have my business, or maybe I made it into this field. But, really look at where you came from. The people around you. What had they accomplished? And then look at you now, how much you've accomplished. And people believe like, when you're stuck in this lifestyle, you never make it out. But for you, you fought really hard. You stayed up days and nights to make sure that you accomplish what you accomplished. And maybe you're still working hard right now. Maybe you haven't accomplished it yet, but it's the fact that you're driven and you're still trying and you're willing to put every ounce of effort into it, into your future. It's like you're this shining beacon of hope where everybody else just believed like, yeah, nobody ever makes it out of here. But you can. And that is that inspiration to those around you. I feel like if you have siblings, like I mentioned earlier, those siblings look up to you so much, and you are that guiding light that's like, maybe if it weren't for you, they would just stay where they were born, live there their entire life, only ever have the job that, your parents had or those around them had, and never really thought that somebody like them could succeed. But then here's you, somebody like them, succeeding. Like, that is a really, really big thing. And that's where I say, like, it's not just about things that you've done for other people. It's about the way that you live your life. That is what inspires people. People want to follow in your footsteps. They want to emulate you because they're so, like, you're iconic. Like, I can't remember the word, but they look up to you so much. And I think that's one of the biggest things that deserves admiration about you. I think you're an extremely admirable person. I think you're an extremely hard worker. You're a protector. And where you've come from, a lot of people take that excuse and say, like, I can never be better than this. But you didn't want to take any excuses. You went above and beyond, and that is what makes you so amazing in people's eyes. And maybe it's not easy for you to hear, like, amazing, admirable, like all these words. It's like, it's too much, but you deserve to hear it. You deserve to be proud of yourself, because I feel like you're such a hard worker. It's like, just keep your head down, keep working, keep pushing, But you deserve to take a breath here and there and say, wow, look at how far I've come. And especially, look at how you've helped those around you. You know, it's like, I'm imagining like a big brother who is going off to his first day of work wearing like his suit and tie and everything, and then there's like the little brother who is like trying to tie his own little tie and is like, I want to be just like you when I grow up. Like, you are setting a perfect example for people to follow in your footsteps. And maybe you don't always see it because you're really hard on yourself when you make a mistake and you're like, oh, like this is terrible. It's okay to make little mistakes here and there. I think you're really hard on yourself and it makes you succeed, but you also deserve to be proud of yourself. And the people around you are very, very proud of you. So, pile 1, that is everything that I have for you. I could keep going on and on and on, but I think you get the gist of it. I really hope that this reading made you feel better about yourself. I hope that it found you when you needed the most. And I encourage you so much. Keep pushing. Keep succeeding at what you're doing. You're doing an amazing thing, whatever it is that you're out there doing. People really admire it, and they need you as somebody to look up to. And you're doing great. So, pile 1, that is everything that I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Alright, pile 2. If you chose the Angelite, then this is the reading for you. Now, I want to say off the bat, I think it's really interesting that you have all red / like dark orange cards here. The color red could be your favorite color or a prominent color to you. But when I think of like red energy, I'm thinking of somebody who pushes forward like a train, like they don't stop. Somebody who has a fuel and passion inside them that like drives them forward. I think of somebody who's very driven, very passionate, feels their emotions very strongly. You could be a fire sign or have a fire dominant chart, or especially like in your big 3. So that would be Leo, Aries, and Sag, I believe. So just wanted to point that out right away. And all these cards, all the meanings that I see here are tying back to one same thing within you, which is like your drive. And that is the biggest thing that people admire about you. And I'm going to get more in detail here, but starting off with energy and the 6 of Cups reversed. When I see this, the 6 of Cups is all about our past. It's usually about like nostalgia or like childhood. But with it reversed, it really makes me think that maybe you didn't have the easiest childhood. Maybe there was a big tragedy that happened. Maybe you had shit parents and it was just a really rough childhood. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe there was some sort of big tragedy that happened and everybody would have seen that and said, if I went through that, I never would have been able to get over it, or I never would have been able to push forward, or if I lived that kind of childhood, I don't know how you were able to succeed the way that you could. But with the energy card, you have this kind of mental alchemy or perspective shifting that you do, where you take that tragedy, or you take that terrible childhood, or you take that pain that you felt, and you transmute it and turn it into your fuel. And that is huge. To instead of looking at that and saying like, this is going to hold me back for the rest of my life, or, because of this, I'm going to behave this way for the rest of my life. No, you look at that and you say, I never want to live that kind of life. I never want my children to live that kind of life. I want to make sure that I have the best possible opportunities for my children or for myself. I want to make sure I get as far away from that energy and that lifestyle as possible. And I'm going to use that as my energy to fuel myself through everything. Through school, through my job, through the future, through everything that stands in my way. That is my reason why. And I've been listening to a lot of these Navy SEALs like tell their life story and like how they got through SEAL training, which is like BUDS. That's SEAL training. And it's extremely grueling. It's extremely difficult. And they talk about how D1 athletes who excel in everything, excel in running and lifting and whatever endurance training it is, they excel through all of that. But there's a part of mindset where if you don't have a reason why, if you don't have something that truly drives you to your end goal, they all end up failing out. And then I remember there was a guy that had asthma that became a Navy SEAL. And if you don't know the kind of training that they go through, it's extremely difficult. But it just goes to show that his reason why was so strong that he was able to overcome those odds, even if he was like barely making the run by like the last few seconds, even though he was like throwing up after every single run and couldn't breathe. Like his reason why pushed him through. And I feel like that's you. You have an extremely strong reason why that pushes you along. You have an extremely strong drive within you to succeed. You have this like eternal flame burning within you that is that passion, that is that drive. And that is a huge thing that people admire, is like, how do you get over all these obstacles? How do you push through? How do you keep reaching for success even when you get knocked down over and over again? Even when there's roadblocks in your way, even when you're physically sick or you can't get through something. Everybody around you is like, how are you still succeeding? How are you still standing? And for you, it's like, well, I just have this drive. That's just innate to me. It's just, I have that reason why I want to keep pushing. I have that reason why I want to succeed. And it's whatever this is, whatever happened to you, you do not want to let it define you. You want to make your own future. You want to make your own path. And people, whether you realize they see it or not, they see how driven you are. And that is extremely admirable. Like people, you're an inspiration to a lot of people. And a lot of people are just disbelieving, like, how are you going through all this and still succeeding? Like, I would have taken that first fall and would have been like, oh, well, it's over for me. I can't keep going. But for you, it's like, no, you do not let yourself fall into a victim mindset. You instead pick yourself up and you're like, I'm going to keep going until my legs fall off. And even then I'm going to put wheels on these bad boys. I'm going to keep going. Like, I feel like that's you. And maybe you don't realize it because maybe there's a lot of internal pain and suffering, and maybe all you see is the things that you're doing wrong. But from an outside perspective, people see like how you got from point A, which was nothing, to point B, which should be impossible, but you still did it anyway. And with the stop card and the star, I feel like this is really along the same lines, because the star card is all about hope. And with the stop card, it makes me think that there were so many roadblocks in your way. Maybe your starting location or your starting point didn't have any opportunity for you. You, from a logistic perspective, should not be able to succeed, should not be able to feel any hope. And yet here you are, still looking at the bright side. I feel like even when it's dark, even when it seems like there's no way to move forward, you find some way to have faith, whether it's faith in yourself, faith in your abilities, faith in the universe, faith in your path, and you still keep moving forward. Even when everybody would have seen the roadblock and seen like, my car can't keep going forward, therefore I can't get from California to New York. No, you know what you say? You say, all right, well, my car can't make it, but I can hop over this roadblock and keep walking, and then I'll find a bus or a train, or I'll steal a car, I'll make it happen. But for other people, it's like, how do you see a roadblock and get through it? And for you, it's like, I just don't make excuses. Nothing should be able to stop me. And then finally, we have happiness and the Queen of Swords. And these two are very interesting to me. I feel like you're somebody who, like, the internal alchemy thing is a really big thing. I'm glad I mentioned it in the beginning, and I hope that you know about it. But basically, internal alchemy or perspective shifting is like, I'll give you one example. This is one that I heard recently where it's like, let's say that you're driving down the road and you get cut off by a car. And your initial reaction is to be super angry and be like, oh, why would they do that? They could have damaged my vehicle. But then you shift that perspective. You transmute it and you say, you know what? Maybe his friend is in the hospital. And maybe his friend is about to pass away and he needs to get to the hospital on time. And so instead of being angry, in a split second, you can go from anger to empathy, and then to happiness. And that is a really, really good skill to have. And I feel like not a lot of people do that very often. But I feel like it's something that you can do. You look at a failure or you look at a roadblock and you say, you know what? Maybe this is the universe rerouting me to a better direction. Maybe that was meant to happen for a good reason. And I feel like that is something that's really difficult for people to do, but you are able to do it and maintain a level head throughout your journey. Even when waters are rising and falling and your emotions should be rising and falling with that, you remain level-headed, and it's because you can transmute these thoughts and emotions. You can change them by just simply changing your perspective as you go along. And it allows you to keep moving forward steadily, even when there's a storm, even when your boat should have been flipped over. It's like, okay, we just go with the flow. We just go this way. And you know what? It'll all happen the way that it's meant to. And I feel like from an outside perspective, people just see like, wow, how you are so level-headed throughout everything that you're going through. You seem so happy and content and like you're just going with the flow. How do you do it? And I feel like the best way that you could explain it is like, imagine that you have like an outside perspective of the full journey. You realize like point A to point B, you're eventually going to get to where you want to go. You see all the bumps in between, but all you focus on is, you know what? It's all guiding me to where I need to go. Even the bad things, even the roadblocks, even the pauses, even the rejections is all helping you to achieve what you want. And from an outside perspective, all people see is the roadblocks and like, how are you still smiling? And for you, it's like you just have a very strong faith, or you just are able to shift your perspective so quickly from, you know, like I said, feeling anger to feeling empathy, and then to contentness, and then moving past things that might have gotten under people's skin. I think that's an extremely good skill to have. And that is something that I think people really admire about you, because they look at what you go through and they're like, man, I would have had a breakdown like 5 roadblocks ago. Like, I don't know how you're still standing. And especially being level-headed, it's an amazing skill to have, even in this day and age where people judge so quickly, get angry so quickly, and then do actions that they end up regretting. For you, it's like, let me bypass all of that by looking at things from a different perspective, which is really hard to pull yourself out of when people, especially when people are dealing with really strong emotions about things. A lot of the times they just can't see through that, but you do. And again, extremely admirable. So pile 2, that is about everything that I have for you. I think I've covered everything pretty well. I think if I were to keep going, it would just be me rambling about the same things over and over again. But all in all, that's everything that I have. I really hope that this made you feel a bit stronger, a little bit more positive about yourself. I hope you realize like just how emotionally intelligent you are, and just how driven you are, and how like you're in a very high percentile of people. Like, I feel like maybe you're like, well, everybody's like this. Everybody can do this. This is a skill that everybody can do. And yeah, it's true. Everybody can do it. Everybody can get through Navy SEAL training, but not a lot of people will. Not a lot of people want to. But you're one of those people that has the drive, that has the determination, and has the ability to shift perspective, and that is what puts you in the highest percentile of whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So, pile 2, that is everything that I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Alright, pile 3, last but certainly not least. If you chose the Labradorite, then this is the reading for you. Now, something that I want to point out first and foremost is the color symbolism today has been really interesting. These top 3 cards, maybe to you, it doesn't seem like they'd usually be colorful, but in pile 1 and 2, they were like, almost all of them were like bright colors, bright red, and for you, you've got all gray and black. And to me, for some reason, that makes me feel like you're somebody who you always see the negative sides of yourself. You always see the shadow sides of yourself. And I feel like for those of us that always feel like we need to be on the healing journey, that can often be a side effect where you're constantly looking at like, okay, what needs to be fixed next? What's still holding me back? What's still holding me down? And I feel like you're somebody who lives in this shadow. Like a lot of the time you're living mentally in this shadow, constantly wondering, you know, what's going to go wrong next? What do I need to fix next? And it really keeps you on this like offensive kind of position when dealing with what's going to get you down, because I feel like you're somebody who's always dealt with negative emotions controlling you, fears controlling you, change really pushing you off balance. But because you've dealt with this for so long, because you've kind of lived in this shadow, you work really well in it. Almost like a nocturnal creature where it's like you're so accustomed to darkness that that's kind of where you thrive. And I hope that this analogy is going to kind of make sense, but it makes me think that it's like You know when caterpillars kind of have to go into that chrysalis and they can't do anything in the chrysalis, they're kind of just hibernating almost, but when they come out of it, they've completely transformed into a beautiful butterfly. For you lived in this shadow for so long. You lived amongst these fears. You lived amongst this hatred and this pain and this depression for so long that when you come out of it, it can no longer control you. And I think a big thing that people really admire about you is you kind of portray this outward strength where fears cannot control you. Fears cannot hold you down. When things suddenly change, or there's a sudden loss of something, or you don't accomplish a certain goal, instead of it keeping you down, you have a quick turnaround, and it's like you always seem to bounce back pretty quickly. And when things, certain thoughts or negative emotions are haunting you, or things from your past come up, or things would seemingly torment other people, you find a way to move through it so quickly. Almost where, like, if a ghost were to pop up next to you, it's like you look over at it, and then you just look away, and you're like, whatever, I deal with those all the time. Those have no effect over me anymore. And it's this kind of like nonchalance at these extreme emotions that would keep so many people down. But for you, it's like, oh, I've been there and I've done much worse. Like, nothing can get at me anymore. And I feel like it's been a long road, and it hasn't always been easy for you, but you've gotten to this point of strength where things don't even bounce off you, like they can't come near you. And that's a big thing that people admire. Like, whether you realize it or not, people, maybe what they notice is like a certain thing should really terrify you, but instead you're like, dude, I'm just gonna like get over that like in a few hours. And people are like, what? How is this not keeping you down for months? How is that not stopping you in your tracks? How are you not terrified? How are you not crippled right now? And it's like, I've dealt with much worse. And it's like, it just gives off this air of like nothing can touch you. And I'll get in a little bit more depth here. So starting off with Ghost and the Star. This Ghost card makes me think of like ghosts from the past, or it almost makes me think like things that used to have a really strong effect over you emotionally from your past, things that in the past maybe would have hurt you or terrified you or really had a strong grip over you. Now when they come up, they don't do anything to you. And with the the Star card, this card is all about hope. And it's all about being able to move forward, and like when things no longer work one way, you just make your own way. Like, when I look at this, I kind of have it covered up because of the nudity, and YouTube doesn't like that, but in this card, you see this woman who's pouring water into this kind of like basin, but she's also pouring it on a side that doesn't have a basin, like just onto the grass. And in my mind, I'm sure this isn't the actual meaning, but it makes me think like, if you can't pour it where it's supposed to be poured, if you can't pour it where it used to be poured, where things used to work, you'll just make your own. Even if the water has to wear it away for years and years and years until it can make its own lake, you're still going to do it yourself. You're going to make your own way. And so when I look at the Ghost card and this card together, it makes me think like these things that used to hold you back. You have overcome so much in your life that now it's just a ghost passing through. It doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't even faze you. You're like, okay, if this thing isn't working out, I'll just make my own way. It's like, dude, how are you going to build a lake? And it's like, whatever, I'm just going to start one drop at a time. I'm just going to start over here. And I feel like people look at you and they're like, how are you able to operate this way? And for you, it's like, I'm just not going to let anything hold me back. Like, I feel like that is the biggest message here, is like, you don't let anything hold you back. And it's so perplexing to other people. Like, there's so many people that just don't understand, how are you able to operate this way? How are you able to live this way? And it's like, nothing can hurt you. Nothing can hurt you. And I feel like it's come from years and years of numbing, which maybe isn't the healthiest way to go about it, but it's certainly something that a lot of people, I don't even know if admire is the right word, because they're just like in awe. Like, they don't understand it. They're like, how can you not let this tragedy affect you? How do these things not hold you back? Like, they're just in awe. Like, they just are so perplexed. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like people see how you can just like bound over obstacles. And they're like, how did that not stop you? And you're like, I'm a motherfucking train, baby. But the next card that we have here is Fear and the Eight of Swords reversed. And this card almost makes me sad for your previous or your past self because of what you must have had to have gone through. But at the same time, it's empowering because you do not let things stop you. Because you have fear here and the Eight of Swords reversed. And an analogy that's coming to mind is, I'm imagining a kid that like was forced to watch horror movies. Like the scariest things ever since they were little. Ever since like they could open their eyes. It's like it's the only thing that they consumed. And obviously that's not a good thing. But instead of that child becoming paralyzed with fear, eventually that desensitivity, you know what I'm trying to say. They got so desensitized that, like, if a serial killer came up to them, or like somebody tried to rob them, like nothing phases them, and instead it's like the robber gets scared. It's like, whoa, okay, I'm not messing with you. And like, I have this kind of somber energy about me because I'm sad for your inner child, of what it must have gone through. But these are things that people admire because I don't think they realize. Oh, I get it. I'm starting to get the exact message. So for you, you don't admire these things about yourself because you know what it took to get here, and that's not something that you think people should admire. Nobody should admire what you went through. But it has turned you into somebody that people do admire, whether you like it or not. The fact that nothing can faze you, you don't fear anything. When fears that would paralyze other people, when they come upon you, it's like they just bounce off you and they don't faze you. To you, you're like, how could anybody admire that? It's sick, it's terrible. And I feel like that's why you see it in so black and white, is you're like, nobody should admire this. Nobody, like, I feel like you want to say, like, I'm broken. Nobody should want to be this way. But I feel like you don't see, yes, it came from something terrible. Yes, it's something that you wish never happened, but the person that you are today, whether you want to say it's terrible or not, is something that people think is extremely strong. And something that you really need to hear right now is you are not defined by your past. And maybe when people say they admire you, you want to like scoff and be like, how dare you? You shouldn't admire this. Why should anybody admire this? But whether you like it or not, this is who you are. You can't change what happened to you. You don't have to own it and be proud of the past. But you do need to recognize that you are the person that you are today, whether you like it or not. And people are going to admire you, whether you like that or not either. Because the person that you are today is extremely resilient. And maybe you're not happy that you had to develop that level of resilience. And you know, I wouldn't be happy either, because why should anybody have had to have gone through that? But the why isn't going to change anything. You are who you are. You went through what you went through. And even though it's so hard for you to admire yourself, or admire the person that you are today, because the other side of you wants to hate everything that you went through and hate how it's turned you into this person. But you need to recognize that there is light in that darkness. Even though you just see yourself as this dark, disgusting creature who's just been through way too much. Nobody could ever love this. Why would anybody love this? And if they did love it, they must be sick and twisted. But that's not true. I feel like you've lived in the dark for so long. Like I said, you've begun to thrive in it, but you also hate yourself for it. I think you wish that you were not a nocturnal creature, but the truth is you are. That's just your nature now because of everything that you've gone through and how it's molded you through life. And a part of yourself feels like you're never going to be able to admire yourself for it. And I feel like that's why it's been so hard for me to describe all this, is because why should anybody admire these things about me? I feel like that's what you want to say. But you are an admirable person. You're extremely resilient. All of these parts of you speak about your resilience, speak about your will, speak about your strength. And I feel like you just want to reject it all. I feel like you just wish you were a different person. And the hard truth is, you are who you are, and there's no changing that. But I hope that eventually you can look at all of these things, and instead of just seeing the past and how it defined you and how it created who you are today, look at yourself and say, look at how I made it out of that. Look at how these tools and these strengths that I've garnered, how they can help me in the future, how I can help those around me. And finally, with the Death card and the Page of Pentacles reversed. These two cards, I feel like people admire how when things get in your way, when there are sudden changes or upheavals or things don't work out or things suddenly veer off course, you're easily able to let go of the outcome of like what you wished could have happened and just keep moving forward. And if I had to put that into an analogy, it's like, let's say you really wanted to accomplish this one thing. You really wanted it to work out. And then it didn't. And then you're able to detach emotionally and feel nothing. Instead of being like, damn, and being like upset about it, it's like you just detach and it's like, I never cared about that to begin with. And it's so hard for you to be proud of that, because why should I be proud of detaching from emotions? Why should I be proud of being so desensitized to all the shit in the world? Why should I be so proud of my ability to get through these difficult things? Why should I have to go through these difficult things? And I'm not here to tell you why. And I wish you didn't have to go through all these things, but the truth is, everything that has built you into the person that you are today has built you into an extremely strong person. Somebody who, no matter what the world throws at you, you can make it through. No matter what the world tries to shove in your face to scare you or hold you back, you'll just move right around it. And when things come up from the past, things that should scare you, you're still able to have hope and move forward. But I feel like the biggest thing that needs to be brought to your attention right now is how little you are proud of yourself. I feel like instead of being proud of yourself, you just think of how much you hate the past, and how it's like when you go through battle and you're covered in scars. You hate the scars. You hate how they've made you quote unquote ugly. In your mind, they've made you ugly. But instead, I think people around you, they see that and they say, wow, look at how strong this person was to make it out of all this. Those scars are badges of honor. And I feel like it's going to take a long time for you to flip that perspective. But you should know, even if you can't be proud of them, there are a lot of people around you that are proud of you. A lot of people that look at those scars and don't see ugly, don't see pain, but they see resilience, strength, your ability to make it through incredibly difficult things. And I feel like this is going to be a very difficult message for you to hear. Honestly, if you made it this far, hats off to you, because I know I've been babbling on and on for a long time, but all of this is for me to say that I hope that eventually you can be as proud of yourself as the people around you can be. But I also feel like that's not something that was really built into you. Everything was stripped away except for the ability to be strong, the ability to be resilient. The only thing I need are these survival instincts, and you didn't take anything else with you. It was all about fight and survive, but you're no longer in an environment where you have to do that anymore. You're in an environment where, now it's time for prosperity. Now it's time for the flowers to grow around everything that's been cut down. But it's like you're still just holding on to this fight or flight mode and not letting anything positive in. Not being able to admire yourself for everything that you've been through. Only hating yourself for, look at all these scars all over me. But you deserve to look at those and say, those are badges of honor. And you know what? I am proud of myself for making it through it. So, pile 3, I hope that if this resonated, that you can take that to heart. I hope eventually you can be proud of yourself and you can admire yourself the way that people around you do. And you have to know that just because our past built us does not mean that it defines us. So that is everything that I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.